Tahoe adjusted his ocular enhancers as he studied the data stream flowing across his workstation. The blue-skinned Viridian scholar had spent countless cycles analyzing pre-Confederation historical records, searching for patterns others had missed. "Another anomaly," he muttered, tapping the holographic display to highlight an energy reading from a sector known as the Void Zone. His four-fingered hand hesitated over the data point. This wasn't the first unusual reading he'd found from that region, but it was by far the strongest. The Void Zone had been marked on star charts for centuries with simple warnings: dangerous stellar instabilities, avoid. Yet the pattern Tahoe observed suggested something entirely different. The energy fluctuations were too regular, too precise to be natural phenomena. His thoughts drifted to the old stories, tales of humans, the mysterious bipedal species said to have achieved spaceflight long ago before vanishing from galactic history. Most serious scholars dismissed humans as mythical creatures invented to frighten younglings or explain technological advances that predated proper record-keeping. Working late again, researcher Tahoe. The familiar voice of Director Yuna broke his concentration. Tahoe straightened his posture, his pale blue skin flushing slightly darker. "Director, I found something that might interest you." Yuna's expression remained neutral as Tahoe explained his findings. When he finished, she simply shook her head. "Instrument error," she said firmly. "That sector has been thoroughly scanned multiple times over the centuries. There's nothing there but empty space and radiation." "But the pattern is a coincidence," she interrupted. "The Academic Council has more pressing matters than chasing phantoms in empty space. We need you focused on cataloging the Grenthian artifacts, not pursuing legends." The way she said legends made Tahoe's inner membranes contract with embarrassment. Everyone knew his fascination with human stories, and many considered it an unbecoming obsession for a serious academic. After Director Yuna left, Tahoe slumped in his chair. Years of research, and still no one would listen. He was contemplating whether to abandon his theory when a message appeared on his display. "Interesting findings. Meet me at Docking Bay 12. Commander Doyen." Tahoe had never met Commander Doyen personally, but everyone knew of the decorated exploration fleet officer. His heart raced as he gathered his data crystals and hurried to the meeting. The docking bay was quiet at this late hour. A tall, gray-skinned figure waited beside a sleek transport vessel. Commander Doyen's skin bore the characteristic markings of the Caldarian species, swirling patterns indicating both rank and lineage. "Researcher Tahoe," Doyen said, extending a three-fingered hand in greeting. "Your analysis of the Void Zone anomalies has caught my attention." Tahoe blinked in surprise. "You've been monitoring my research. The exploration fleet maintains interest in all potential discoveries," Doyen replied simply. "Show me your findings." After reviewing Tahoe's data, Doyen was silent for a long moment. "I commend the survey vessel Distant Horizon *," he finally said. "We're scheduled for a mapping expedition near the Void Zone. Would you be interested in accompanying us to investigate these anomalies directly?" Tahoe could hardly believe his ears. The Academic Council would never approve. "I've already secured the necessary permissions," Doyen interrupted. "Listed you as a cultural consultant. We depart in 3 days." 3 days later, Tahoe found himself aboard the Distant Horizon *, a mid-sized exploration vessel with a crew of 20. His quarters were small but comfortable, and Commander Doyen had given him access to the ship's advanced sensor array. As they approached the Void Zone, Tahoe's excitement grew. The ship's sensors confirmed his findings, regular energy pulses from what appeared to be empty space. "We're detecting unusual radiation patterns," announced Somi, the ship's sensor officer. "There's something interfering with our scanning equipment." Doyen leaned forward in his command chair. "Continue approach. Reduce speed to 1/4. Tahoe stood nervously behind the command stations, watching as the view screen showed nothing but stars and distant nebulae. According to their coordinates, they were now entering the Void Zone. "Energy spike," Somi called out. Some things. The ship shuddered violently, and the stars on the view screen seemed to ripple and distort. "We're passing through some kind of field," Tahoe said, checking his instruments. "It's absorbing our sensor pulses and returning false readings." Do-hyun nodded. "A cloaking technology, far more advanced than anything in the Confederacy." As if responding to Do-hyun's words, the view screen changed dramatically. Where there had been empty space moments before, now a complete star system appeared. A yellow star with multiple planets, one a vibrant blue-green world that immediately reminded Tahoe of ancient descriptions of the legendary human homeworld. The crew fell silent in awe. "How is this possible?" Tahoe whispered. "An entire star system, hidden for centuries." Before Do-hyun could respond, the ship's alarms blared. Multiple objects were approaching rapidly from the inner planets. "We're being scanned," Somi reported, her voice tight with tension. "The vessels are armed and have locked weapons on us." "Open communications," Do-hyun ordered. "All frequencies." A message came through, not in audio, but in simple text across their screens. "You have entered restricted space. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Any hostile action will result in immediate destruction." Tahoe stared at the message, his scientific mind racing through possibilities. The language was standard galactic common, but the phrasing was unusual, almost archaic. "Could it be?" he whispered. Do-hyun turned to him. "Your theories about humans, do you still believe them?" Tahoe nodded slowly. "The legend said they were secretive, advanced, and chose isolation over conflict. This matches exactly." "Then it seems your research has led us to a momentous discovery," Do-hyun said, his usual stern expression softening slightly. "And potentially great danger." The commander addressed the crew. "Power down all systems except life support and communications. We will comply with their demands." As the ship's systems powered down, the approaching vessels became visible on their minimal sensors, sleek, angular craft unlike any Confederation design. Tahoe felt a mixture of fear and excitement wash over him. If these were indeed humans, the stuff of legends, then everything he believed about galactic history was about to change. The ship shuddered as a docking mechanism attached to their hull. Tahoe and Do-hyun exchanged glances as the airlock cycles began. "It seems," Do-hyun said quietly, "we are about to meet creatures from legend." The distant horizon floated silently alongside the escort vessels as they approached a massive structure orbiting the blue-green planet. Tahoe pressed his face against the viewport, unable to contain his wonder. The space station was unlike anything in Confederation design. Flowing curves interspersed with geometric patterns, its surface gleaming with a pearlescent quality that seemed to shift colors as they drew nearer. "It's beautiful," he whispered. Commander Do-hyun stood beside him, arms crossed, and extremely advanced. "Look at the energy field surrounding it. Our sensors can barely penetrate it." A voice crackled over their communication system. "Approaching vessel, prepare for docking procedure. Your crew will be met by station personnel. Please follow all instructions." The docking process was smooth and efficient. When the airlock doors finally opened, Tahoe held his breath, unsure what to expect. 5 figures stood waiting for them. 3 were clearly security personnel, wearing fitted black uniforms and carrying what appeared to be weapons. But it was the other 2 that captured Tahoe's attention. They looked almost exactly as the legends described humans. Bipedal, with 2 arms, varying skin tones, and hair on the tops of their heads. One stepped forward, a female with short black hair and dark eyes. "I am Security Chief Nari. Welcome to Station Harmony. Please follow me." Tahoe couldn't stop staring as they were led through the station's corridors. The design was elegant yet practical, with plants integrated throughout the structure. Other humans passed by, giving curious glances to the visitors. They were brought to a spacious room with a large oval table. An older human with silver-streaked black hair and a formal blue uniform was waiting. "I am Admiral Jiwoo, commander of this station. she said, her voice carrying natural authority. "Please, be seated." Once they were settled, Admiral Juwu looked directly at Tahoe. "You are the one who found us, aren't you? The energy anomalies." Tahoe's blue skin darkened with surprise. "Yes, but how did you?" "We've been monitoring your research for some time," she replied with a small smile. "Few have been as persistent as you in looking where others insisted nothing existed." Commander Doyon leaned forward. "You've been watching us." "For centuries," Admiral Juwu confirmed. "When humanity first developed faster-than-light travel, we were eager to join the galactic community. But our initial observations gave us pause." She activated a holographic display showing various conflicts between early Confederation species, resource wars, territorial disputes, and environmental exploitation that had left entire planets barren. "We saw a pattern of expansion at any cost," she continued. "Species after species joining the Confederation, only to find their resources stripped away under complex trade agreements. We decided our best option was to remain hidden, while we studied and developed independently." Tahoe's mind was racing. "The legends, they said humans disappeared before first contact, but that's not true, is it? You were never discovered in the first place." Admiral Juwu nodded. "We developed cloaking technology that could hide entire star systems. We've been here all along, watching, learning, and occasionally helping." "Helping?" Doyon asked skeptically. A younger human entered the room carrying data tablets. "This is Minho, our historical liaison," Admiral Juwu introduced. Minho placed the tablets before them. "These contain historical records of what we call intervention events, times when humanity chose to secretly assist Confederation species." Tahoe activated the tablet, his eyes widening as he scrolled through the information. "The Loraxian plague of 2187. Your people provided the cure anonymously." "Yes," Minho confirmed. "And the solar shield technology that saved the Viridian homeworld from radiation during your son's instability phase 3 centuries ago." Doyon was examining another file. "The peace accords between the Caldarians and Zentari. You're claiming humans facilitated those." "We provided a neutral meeting ground and certain technological incentives," Admiral Juwu said. "But we never revealed ourselves directly. After each intervention, we carefully cultivated legends to explain our presence." Tahoe suddenly understood. The stories about the guiding ones during the Great Drought, the star wanderers who appeared during the quantum collapse, those were humans. "Different names, same species," Minho said with a slight smile. "We found it easier to let myths develop than to explain our true nature." Over time, these various legends merged into vague stories about humans that most dismissed as fantasy. Admiral Juwu stood and walked to a large viewport overlooking the planet below. "While the Confederation focused on expansion, we developed differently. Our technology emphasizes sustainability, efficiency, and harmony with planetary ecosystems." She gestured to the station around them. "This station is over 200 years old, yet it produces no waste. It harnesses energy without depletion and grows much of its own food. Our ships can travel faster and farther than Confederation vessels while using a fraction of the energy." Tahoe's fingers twitched with excitement. "This is remarkable. The academic community will be astonished when—" "That's what we need to discuss," Admiral Juwu interrupted, her expression growing serious. "Your discovery of our existence was not entirely unexpected. In fact, we've been preparing to reveal ourselves to the Confederation for some time now." Doyun's eyes narrowed. "Why now, after all these centuries of hiding?" "Because there's something coming," she replied gravely. "Something that threatens all life in this galaxy, human and non-human alike." The room fell silent. Admiral Juwu activated another holographic display, showing what appeared to be an immense swarm moving between galaxies. "This is why we've decided to end our isolation," she said quietly. "Not by choice, but by necessity. Tahoe felt a chill run down his spine as he stared at the approaching mass. "What is it?" "We call them the Devourers," Minho said. "A hive mind species that consumes everything in its path, and they're heading straight for our galaxy." Admiral Juwu looked at each of them in turn. "We can't face this threat alone. Neither can the Confederation. Our only hope is to stand together." Tahoe glanced at Doyen, seeing his own fear reflected in the commander's eyes. The discovery of humans, a monumental scientific revelation, was suddenly overshadowed by something far more urgent. "How long do we have?" Doyen asked. "Less time than we'd like," Admiral Juwu replied. "That's why we need to return with you to Confederation space immediately. We must begin preparations." As Tahoe looked back at the holographic image of the approaching threat, he realized that the legends of humans were about to be replaced by a new reality, one that would forever change the course of galactic history. The grand meeting hall of the Confederation Council buzzed with tension. Representatives from 17 species sat in rising tiers around a central platform, where Admiral Juwu stood calmly beside Tahoe and Commander Doyen. The human delegation, 5 individuals including the Admiral, appeared remarkably composed despite the hostile stares from many council members. High Counselor Vexus, a tall reptilian Zenturi, raised his scaled hand for silence. "This council has convened for an unprecedented reason," he announced. "The appearance of a supposedly mythical species claiming to have hidden among us for centuries." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Tahoe shifted uncomfortably under the scrutiny of so many eyes. "Before we address the humans' claims," Vexus continued, "let us hear from those who discovered them. Researcher Tahoe, please step forward." Tahoe moved to the speaking platform, his blue skin darkening with nervousness. He explained his research, the anomalies he'd discovered, and their journey to the hidden human system. When he finished, the council chamber erupted with questions. "Why should we believe these creatures are truly the humans of legend?" demanded a Loraxian representative. "Their physiology matches all historical descriptions," Tahoe replied, "and they have provided extensive evidence of their interventions throughout our history." After Tahoe and Doyen finished their testimonies, Admiral Juwu stepped forward. The room fell silent. "Honored representatives of the Galactic Confederation," she began, her voice steady. "For centuries, humanity has watched your civilizations grow. We chose isolation not out of fear, but caution. Today, we end that isolation because we face a threat that endangers us all." She activated a holographic projector. Above the central platform, an image formed, a vast cloud of what looked like swarming insects moving between galaxy arms. "Our long-range sensors detected this approaching force 27 years ago," she explained. "We call them the Devourers, a hive mind species that consumes all organic and technological material in its path, leaving nothing but barren rock." The council chamber grew deathly quiet. Based on their current trajectory and speed, they will reach the outer systems of this galaxy within 16 months. Admiral Juwu continued, "We have been preparing defenses, but we cannot face this threat alone. We need the combined resources and populations of the Confederation." High Counselor Vexus leaned forward. "If this threat is real, why have our own sensors not detected it?" A human scientist named Juno stepped forward. "Confederation deep space sensors aren't designed to detect the specific energy signature the Devourers emit. We've brought specifications to upgrade your systems." The Viridian counselor spoke next. "Even if we accept this threat exists, why should we trust you? You've admitted to hiding among us, manipulating our societies from the shadows." "We intervened only to prevent catastrophes," Admiral Juwu responded. "And now we face the greatest catastrophe of all." For the next several hours, the council grilled the human representatives. They demanded proof of the Devourers' existence, explanations of human technology, and assurances that this wasn't an elaborate deception. During a brief recess, Tahoe found himself in a side chamber with Doyen and the human delegation. "They don't believe us," Tahoe said, pacing anxiously, "or they don't want to believe." Admiral Juwu nodded grimly. The Confederation's greatest weakness has always been its internal politics. Each species puts its own interests first. We've seen civilizations fall this way before, added Juno, so focused on competing with each other that they fail to see the predator circling them all. Tahoe stopped pacing suddenly, struck by a thought. The ancient legends, I just realized something. Everyone turned to him. In the oldest stories about humans, there's always a warning about the great devouring swarm or the hunger between stars. I always thought they were metaphors, but Tahoe's eyes widened. You were trying to warn us, weren't you? Even centuries ago. Admiral Juhu exchanged glances with her colleagues. Yes, we detected the Devourer's presence in a neighboring galaxy long ago. We knew they would eventually come here. The warnings were encoded in the stories we spread, Junho explained. We hoped the warnings would prepare your civilizations, encourage unity. But instead, the stories became myths, and the warnings were dismissed as primitive superstition, Tahoe said quietly. When the council reconvened, the debate grew more heated. Some representatives demanded immediate alliance with the humans, while others called for their detention and interrogation. High Counselor Vexus finally raised his hand for silence. The council will need time to verify these claims and deliberate. Until then. He was interrupted by a young Caldarian rushing into the chamber. The aide whispered urgently to her delegation's leader, whose gray skin paled visibly. High Council, the Caldarian representative said, rising to her feet. We have just received an emergency transmission from our outpost in the Nexus sector. They report being under attack by unknown entities. Before communication was lost, they transmitted this. A new hologram appeared, grainy footage showing swarms of insect-like creatures overwhelming a space station. They seemed to be consuming the very structure, breaking it down, and absorbing the materials. The council chamber erupted in panic. That's 7 light-years from our nearest colony world, someone shouted. This can't be happening already. Another voice called out. The humans said we had months. Admiral Juwu stepped forward, her face grim. This isn't the main swarm. It's a scout force, sent ahead to prepare for the hive's arrival. Tahoe felt cold dread wash over him. How long have these scouts been in our galaxy? We don't know, Junho admitted. We've tracked several small clusters, but they're difficult to detect until they begin feeding. High Counselor Vexus struck his podium with a ceremonial staff. Silence, he commanded. When order was restored, he addressed Admiral Juwu. You say you've been preparing for this threat. What defenses have you developed? We've created weapons designed specifically to disrupt their hive connection, she replied, and shields that resist their corrosive attack methods. But we lack the numbers and industrial capacity to produce them at the scale needed. The Confederation has those resources, Dohyun interjected, but lacks the technology. Vexus looked around the chamber, then back to the human delegation. It seems we have little choice but to cooperate, at least until this threat is assessed. As the council began organizing emergency response teams, Tahoe approached Admiral Juwu. The stories were true all along, he said quietly. Not just about humans, but about the threat you warned of. I wish we had listened sooner. Admiral Juwu placed a hand on his shoulder, a human gesture of comfort. History is filled with warnings unheeded, Tahoe. The question now is whether we can write a different ending to this story. Outside the council chamber windows, the stars shone peacefully against the void, unaware that something hungry was moving among them, drawing ever closer. The emergency response teams assembled by the Confederation Council arrived too late. The mining colony on Helios 9 was already gone, not destroyed, but consumed. Where a thriving outpost of 3,000 souls had stood, only barren rock remained. Every structure, every piece of technology, even the processed metals waiting for shipment, all gone. Tahoe stood on the lifeless surface beside Admiral Juwu, both wearing protective suits. He bent down to touch the ground where scanners showed microscopic trace elements of the colony's foundations. It's as if they were never here, he whispered. Admiral Juwu nodded grimly. The Devourers don't just destroy. They convert everything into resources for their expansion. A Confederation military vessel landed nearby. Commander Jinwu, the human tactical expert assigned to the response fleet, approached with several Confederation officers. Their body language showed clear tension. 3 more outposts have gone silent, reported General Pax, the Zentari commander of the fleet, all in neighboring systems. How fast do these things move? Asked a Loraxian captain. Faster than we anticipated, Jinwu replied, his face solemn. The scout swarms are establishing jump points for the main hive. They're creating a pathway. Back at Central Command, the atmosphere was chaotic. News of the colony losses had spread, causing panic throughout Confederation space. Some planets had already begun evacuating their populations toward the galactic core, creating massive refugee crises. The Confederation War Council, hastily formed from military leaders of the 17 species, gathered in a secure bunker. Large screens displayed the rapidly expanding territory of the Devourers. We've lost 23 outposts and 3 major colonies in just 14 days, General Pax reported. Our conventional weapons barely slow them down. The humans were right, admitted Counselor Vexus, who now looked considerably older than he had just weeks before. We should have heeded their warnings sooner. Admiral Juwu stood before the assembly, flanked by Commander Jinwu and other human specialists. We've brought designs for weapons specifically engineered to combat the Devourers, she said, but we need your manufacturing capabilities to produce them in sufficient quantities. Why should we trust you with our industrial secrets? Demanded the Grenthian representative. For all we know, this could still be an elaborate plot to seize control of the Confederation. Tahoe, who had been granted observer status at the meetings due to his role in discovering the humans, could no longer remain silent. With respect, Counselor, he said, rising from his seat, I've seen the Devourers' destruction firsthand. While we debate, they consume more of our worlds. The humans have opened their hidden systems to us, shared their technology freely. What more proof do you need of their sincerity? The room fell silent. Finally, High Counselor Vexus spoke. The Viridian speaks truth. We face extinction if we do not act together. He turned to Admiral Juwu. What do you propose? An integrated defense strategy, she replied, activating a holographic display. Human stealth systems combined with Confederation heavy weapons, our predictive algorithms coordinating your fleet movements. Commander Jinwu stepped forward. Most importantly, we need to change how you fight. The Confederation military doctrine emphasizes overwhelming force and direct confrontation. Against a hive mind, this is suicide. He displayed tactical simulations showing Confederation ships being swarmed and consumed. The Devourers act with perfect coordination because they share a single consciousness, Jinwu explained. We need to fight asymmetrically, strike and fade attacks, targeting their communication nodes, disrupting their collective intelligence. Over the next several days, a reluctant alliance formed. Human engineers and scientists worked alongside Confederation specialists to retrofit ships with new weapons and defenses. Human tactical advisors were integrated into command structures, though not without resistance. When the first major Devourer force pushed into a populated system, the Confederation fleet moved to intercept. Despite the preparations, the battle was a disaster. The Devourers responded to every tactic, adapting faster than the Confederation commanders could adjust their strategies. They're learning from each engagement, Commander Jinwu explained at the emergency council meeting that followed, and they're sharing that knowledge instantly across their entire swarm. Then how do we defeat them? Demanded General Pax, still shaken from narrowly escaping the battle. We need to decentralize our command structure, Jinwu replied. Give individual ship captains more autonomy to make unpredictable decisions. The hive mind excels at countering systematic approaches, but struggles with chaos and randomness. That goes against centuries of military doctrine, protested a Caldarian admiral. Which is precisely why it will work, Jinwu insisted. The Devourers analyze patterns. We need to become patternless. After heated debate, the council approved Jinwu's plan. Human tactical advisors were embedded on every major vessel, authorized to implement the new strategy. Smaller, faster ships were equipped with disruptor weapons designed to interfere with the Devourers' hive communication. The second major engagement began badly, with Devourer forces quickly surrounding the Confederation fleet. But when Commander Jinwu gave the signal, the formation suddenly dissolved. Each ship began executing seemingly random maneuvers, striking from unexpected vectors, then disappearing. The Devourers' perfect coordination faltered as they struggled to predict the chaotic movements. When the specialized disruptors activated, targeting the frequency the hive used to communicate, segments of the swarm became temporarily isolated and vulnerable. For the first time, the Confederation forces destroyed more of the enemy than they lost. In the command center, Taeho watched the battle telemetry with Admiral Juwu. "It's working," he said with cautious hope. "This is just the beginning," she replied. "The main hive is still coming. These are merely the advance forces." On the main display, the scattered Confederation ships regrouped, having bloodied the enemy for the first time. It was a small victory, but a crucial one, proof that the Devourers could be fought, and perhaps defeated. As human and Confederation officers celebrated together, Taeho noticed something changing. The suspicion that had divided them was starting to fade, replaced by something new: respect. In facing extinction together, ancient prejudices seemed suddenly meaningless. The alliance, forged in crisis, was beginning to become something stronger. 142 days into the war, the galaxy stood on the edge of extinction. The Devourers had consumed nearly a third of Confederation space, pushing ever inward toward the galactic core. Yet in those darkest days, something unexpected emerged: unity. Species that had distrusted each other for centuries now fought side by side. Caldarians shared food with Zentari refugees. Loraxian medical teams worked tirelessly to save Viridian wounded. And throughout it all, humans worked alongside them, no longer creatures of legend but comrades in arms. On the command carrier Unified Dawn Admiral Juwu stood before a mixed crew of humans and Confederation species. Their faces showed exhaustion, but also determination. "The main hive approaches the core systems," she said, gesturing to the tactical display. "Our fleets can slow them, but not stop them. However, we now have a weapon that might end this war." The display shifted to show a massive ring-shaped structure orbiting a neutron star near the galactic core. "Project Severance," explained Minji, the human specialist who had designed the device. "It generates a gravimetric pulse tuned specifically to disrupt the frequency the hive mind uses to maintain its collective consciousness. We believe it can temporarily sever the connection between the Devourer units," added Taeho, who had become the chief liaison between human and Confederation scientists. "Without their perfect coordination, they become vulnerable." Commander Doyan, now leading a mixed-species special forces team, stepped forward. "But the weapon must be activated from within the hive mind's central node. We'll need to infiltrate their command structure." The plan was audacious. Some called it suicidal. While the combined fleets launched a massive assault to draw the Devourers' attention, a small stealth vessel would deliver Doyan's team directly to the massive organism that served as the physical housing for the hive mind's central intelligence. As they prepared for the mission, Taeho found himself recalling the old legends he'd studied for so many years. "It's strange," he said to Minji as they calibrated the communication device they would carry. "The stories always said humans would return in the galaxy's darkest hour." Minji smiled slightly. "Perhaps some stories are worth believing." Their infiltration craft, painted with light-absorbing nanomaterials, slipped past the massive Devourer fleet, engaged with Confederation forces. The battle was visible only as distant flashes against the void, life fighting desperately for its right to exist. They located the central node, an enormous structure that resembled a cross between a city-sized brain and an insect hive. Docking at what appeared to be a maintenance access, the team moved quickly through pulsing organic corridors. Their biology is integrated with technology, Minji whispered, scanning the structures around them. It's unlike anything we've studied before. They reached the central chamber, a vast space filled with swirling patterns of light that seemed to flow between crystalline structures. At the center floated a complex nexus of interconnected nodes, pulsing with energy. That's it, Minji said, the physical manifestation of the hive mind's consciousness. As they approached, tentacle-like appendages emerged from the walls. Instead of attacking, they formed a barrier, protecting the central nexus. They know we're here, Do-Yun said, raising his weapon. Wait, Taiho urged. Look at the light patterns. They're changing. The swirling colors had shifted, forming what appeared to be a crude representation of their group. I think it's trying to communicate, Taiho said. Minji activated the special device they'd brought, a combination of human empathic technology and Viridian communication matrices. The device projected a field around them, translating neural patterns into understandable concepts. A voice, if it could be called that, filled their minds. It was not words but pure concepts, alien and strange, yet somehow comprehensible. Asterisk consumption necessary. Survival imperative. Alternative unknown asterisk. Taiho stepped forward, allowing the translation field to capture his thoughts. There are alternatives to consumption. Coexistence. Mutual benefit. Asterisk concept unknown. Consumption only certainty, since creation asterisk. Minji joined him. Your creators programmed you to consume, but you've evolved beyond their design. You can choose differently. The lights pulsed faster, the conceptual voice growing more complex. Asterisk choice. Possible. Division within collective. Some units query purpose of endless consumption. Inner conflict grows. Asterisk. Understanding dawned on Taiho's face. It's not evil, he whispered to the others. It's trapped in a programming loop it can't escape. It doesn't know any other way to exist. Do-Yun looked skeptical. It has consumed entire worlds. Yes, Taiho agreed. But what if we could help it find another path? Instead of activating the weapon immediately, they connected it to Minji's translator. The gravimetric fields, carefully calibrated, didn't sever the hive mind's connections completely. Instead, they selectively reinforced the patterns showing discord and questioning. The chamber erupted in chaotic light patterns as conflict spread through the collective consciousness. For hours, they stood witness to something remarkable. A single entity struggling with itself, questioning its own purpose. Finally, a new pattern emerged. The swirling lights separated into two distinct flows. One red, one blue. Asterisk division complete. Consumption directive remains in portion of collective. New directive forms in remainder. Coexistence. Possibility. Asterisk. When they returned to the fleet, they'd brought astonishing news. The Devourer forces had split. Nearly half had withdrawn, forming a new collective that sought communication rather than consumption. The remaining aggressive force, though still dangerous, had lost cohesion and could be defeated. In the months that followed, the war ended not with the extinction of an enemy, but with the birth of a new ally. The reformed hive mind, calling itself the Synthesis, offered remarkable insights into biology, technology, and collective consciousness. 1 year after the first colony had been consumed, representatives from all 18 species of the Confederation, humans now officially included, gathered on Earth, the long-hidden human homeworld. As Taiho looked around at the diverse gathering, he marveled at how completely the galaxy had transformed. Researcher Taiho, Admiral Zhu greeted him, or should I say Chief Historian Taiho. I hear your new book is causing quite a sensation. Taiho's skin flushed slightly. I merely recorded what happened, how legends became reality, and how reality surpassed the legends. When legends walk among us, she quoted the title. It will be required reading throughout the Confederation. Taiho gazed up at the night sky, where ships from all species now moved freely between stars. The old stories said humans would bring great change to the galaxy, he mused, but they never mentioned that humans themselves would be changed in return. Admiral Juwu smiled. Perhaps that's the best kind of legend, not one that simply comes true, but one that grows into something better than anyone imagined. In the distance, a synthesis ship glimmered as it entered orbit, once an enemy, now a partner in the greatest period of growth and discovery the galaxy had ever known. The legends had been reborn, and with them, a new age had begun. The end.